Welcome, everybody, to Tusk Radio. Well, that went downhill fast. Anyway, we are coming to you right now from... Where even are we right now? We've moved around so many times in the past 2 weeks.
Have you ever seen the movie Saw?
Oh.
I think we're in the room in Saw.
Oh, that's perfect.
It's possible.
Put a bag over my head to get me here, so I don't remember.
The dreaded Pirate Roberts is going to cut his leg off soon.
The Dread Pirate Roberts,
Dread.
good sir.
Dread Pirate Roberts.
If he was dreaded, he would look like Bob
I was
Marley.
going to say if he was dreaded, he would
Or
have
Johnny Depp.
flowing locks.
You know, that would actually make a really good, internet photo, though, just to float around Facebook for a
Dreaded
while.
Pirate.
The Dreaded Pirate Roberts.
Well,
I feel like we
let's
could make
get
it
to
happen.
work.
Let's get to
I-
Photoshop
I'd
on
be
We
that.
all
that.
can Photoshop.
Somebody please make me a Dreaded Pirate Roberts photo. Send it to Tusk Radio. Care of Adam.
I too would like to see this.
Care of everybody, then. Fine. If you need to be selfish.
CC me on that.
CC me?
Welcome, everybody,
Before
to
you-
episode, what are we, 8 now of Tusk Radio?
Is it?
Sure.
I think, yeah.
The
I'm
Ocho.
reasonably sure it's episode 8, which is very exciting for us because 8 episodes later, we finally were officially kicked out of our studio. That's not actually
It
true.
took that long.
Not entirely true.
That
no.
is not true at all. But we are coming to you from the Black Sun Studios, which is very exciting for us to actually be operating out of home field for once. We are sitting here with Wesley of Ideology. How are you, sir?
Yes, I'm doing well. I'm very happy to be in this basement-type studio.
It is
again.
very basement-y, isn't it? And the funny thing is,
yeah.
it is not a basement.
It looks like a basement.
It looks
Sure does.
exactly like a basement.
Like, imagine a basement. And that's what it looks
Congratulations,
like.
you're done.
Imagination.
Imagine a basement, and you're there.
I'm just describing it for all of our blind listeners. You can't say watchers.
Or victims of Febreze
they
commercials.
still
Yes.
watch.
But do they really?
It's called watching. Yes.
Okay. That's right. You know things that I don't.
Come back, target demographics. Come back to us. Why are you booing me? Well, that was horrific.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel Brackey.
I'm here to be politically incorrect and make myself feel like a bad person.
Well, so far,
I'm-
you're 2 for 2.
Yeah,
You're
it's
winning.
par for the
I'm doing
course.
really well right
It's
now.
brilliant. It's absolutely perfect.
I also look really gross compared to the rest of you.
Well, I have no response for that actually. Like I was gonna.
I'm here
shoot
to
you
set a
something
standard.
snappy, and
I've been
and
working since 5 o'clock this morning. Sir, you're underachieving.
We all know the
No,
man
you're not.
inside.
It's fine.
And
I'm sorry, I should have changed in rush hour. I'll remember that next time. And then the truckers will look at me funnily.
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 They're going to put funnels over their eyes and look at you.
I'm loving the imagery.
Does that mean... I was trying to fit in funnelingus, but it didn't work.
And thank you, FCC. It's been a blast.
Oh my god. That's another t-shirt.
I couldn't make it work.
Oh my.
There's tears in my eyes right now from laughing.
That's horrific.
Oh my gosh, there are.
Oh, it used to be a game for us to make Katie cry just as much as we possibly could.
Doesn't sound like a game.
You
No,
were
it
my
was a
middle
game.
school English teacher.
Yeah.
8 times was her record in a 40-minute class period.
You have a tear rolling down your cheek.
Yes, 2 of them if you look on both sides.
Oh.
Technically, there's 3. There's one here and one here and one here.
And we know you're all
Holy
crying at
crap.
home with us tonight.
Oh. We're so sorry, kinda.
We are recording a little bit
be,
later
it's fine.
tonight than we normally do, and I think everyone's just a little bit loopy. So this could be just a train wreck. Who knows? But I'm looking forward to the train wreck.
We all
So-
might fall asleep.
Yes, we might.
That is a real possibility.
So, Mr. Wesley Berger,
That's me.
I'm glad we cleared that up because I was confused for a second. Like, is it her?
I thought it might have been me.
Ideology. You just released this track. What was it? A week ago? Week and a half?
Yeah, we released it on SoundCloud a little longer ago, but there were some errors with the sound uploading, which doesn't make sense because it's SoundCloud. But then we did the more band-like thing, and we put it on our Bandcamp.
Oh.
Much higher quality, and you can also download it for free.
That's awesome.
Hey.
So that was more
how much
accessible.
does free cost?
Free, actually, technically, free costs as much as you decide it costs because you can opt to pay literally any amount that you want to download the song. But we try to do the smart thing, because if people download it for free, then they also submit their email address for us to send it.
Boom.
And we can't, like gather and market that data or anything, but it's a really cool way for us to stay in touch with fans, because obviously if they're downloading our stuff, they would want to know about more.
Absolutely.
So Bandcamp was
Yes.
the better alternative. That was like maybe 2 weeks ago was Bandcamp.
Perfect.
Nice.
And Bracky, just to point out, we are in America right now, and everyone in America knows that free isn't free. No, wait, it's freedom.
Freedom
isn't free.
isn't free.
You're right. Free is.
You
free.
forgot the Dom and the freedom.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Free.
Who's
No.
Dom and why are we freeing him?
Lunch is what's that other one? There's no such thing as free lunch. That's like like
Yeah.
a 70s political thing, isn't it?
Really?
Is it?
No such thing
Mm-mm.
as a free lunch.
Yeah.
I've heard that
Considering we're
before.
all much younger than the 70s.
I think it was in an
Aren't
Arby's commercial.
Oh, I know that.
Well, in that case, I'm okay with it
Mm.
because
Delicious
roast
food.
beef up in my
Tusk
face.
Radio is in no way affiliated with Arby's Corporation.
Actually true. Entirely true.
We'll
But-
put up an
but
Arby's
would like to
logo
be.
right here.
If you're looking for endorsements.
That would be an awesome endorsement.
And delicious.
That would-
All the curly fries, maybe?
Craft
Oh.
services.
and
Drastically
then you get to
improved.
say stuff like, brought to you by Meatcraft. like,
Oh, yum.
That was really nice the way you just boomed
I
through
kinda
the.
heard
through
that.
Yeah,
the
that was perfect.
put some reverb on that in post.
Jaboom.
Craft.
that's what we need.
It's
I'm
nice
gonna
to
start
learn.
auto tuning the show. I
Right.
think.
Anyway, you released this track like a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
But you started like a year and a half ago, didn't you? Wasn't it forever ago that you actually put the band together?
I actually didn't put the band together. Mike Salo, who's our guitar player, and Charlie Engen, who is our drummer, started fooling around with the musical ideas and constructs of ideology something like 2 or 3 years ago, honestly, when they were both
Oh wow.
well, actually they are both still involved with McNally, but at the time I think it was like 3 years ago or so, and I don't know if Mike was still a student there, but I don't know, they were hanging out a
Might have
lot
been.
more and started messing around with their musical ideas. And I know there's a few people over that span of time leading up to now that they tried in and out of the band, but the setup that we have currently, which besides those two is myself and then John Whitaker and Luke Eibach, we I think achieved that setup in this is hard like just before the beginning of summer. So
Okay.
really, as a group, with the material we're working towards completing, it's only probably been a maximum of 4 or 5 months.
Okay. So this is not something that's been the same group hammering on the same tunes for years and
Not
years.
at all. And like I said, Mike and Charlie have had a lot of these really strong musical ideas for a long time, but it's only been recently that we've been working together to complete them and give them a fully arranged sound. We try to do as much of that together as we can, but sometimes it is just a better option for us to say, you two, you've had these, so much longer. What do you think would be good here? And that's been really good to have them driving it, even though as a group we all feel very included and collaborative.
Sure. Now, what is your role in ideology?
I am our vocalist. I wouldn't say I'm the vocalist because at some point a couple of the other guys are going to add on with some layers and some backgrounds and stuff because they're multi-talented. But that's all I'm doing. I'm writing lyrics and melodies for songs, and I'll be probably trying to get all my hands in our social media more once we officially launch. But yeah, it's really amazing to just have that role of like vocalist and voice for the first time, really.
Yeah, I was gonna say for you, that's a pretty major step back from the things you've been doing with Narrow Vines and with your own stuff, where you were doing everything all the time, not necessarily laying down all the instruments yourself, but you were wearing so many different hats all at once. It seems like you've, I don't know if is honed in the right word. Have you focused in, or is it just one of those things where that's what ideology needed? And so that's where you're at.
Oh, well, I mean, from a musical talent perspective, Ideology, did not and does not need more musicians and musical talent, at all. Because those guys as instrumentalists, continue to blow my mind in multiple ways. And so, other than walking in or being invited in, I should say, as a vocalist, I think if I were doing anything else, I would just be cluttering, honestly. Because everyone fits together so tightly, and I would just make a mess of it if I was doing anything else than just laying my voice on it. But I mean, I am taking the role of working together with everybody really on doing our recordings and our mixings, and we all have input on that. But that's something that I'm probably kind of in like the overall like organizer position,
Sure.
I think. But I can't even really say that because Charlie and I have worked so much together with sounds, and Mike and I have worked a lot together with sounds. But I guess I like to think that I'm our go-to guy when someone has a question about what we can and can't do with certain software. And so, yeah, but honestly, mostly the vocalist.
Very cool. And now that makes you not the last person to have joined the band.
Correct. Technically, both John, who is our, I don't want to say second guitarist because he's like so crucial in a lot of the parts and harmonies he's playing. In some cases, he's actually playing like original parts, and Mike is the one harmonizing. But so John is our guitarist, joined like immediately after me, I think. And then Luke, who plays bass for us, was maybe like a month or two. Oh no! Wow, maybe like 3 or 4 months, I think, after I walked into it. Yeah, so it feels good not to be like the new guy, kind of.
Yeah.
But I also don't exercise any kind of authority because it's really not necessary in any situation with them. So
For those that are not aware and don't know all the people that you're mentioning, they're all really, really, really good.
oh yeah,
Including yourself, obviously.
thank you.
but
I appreciate that.
Like high level instrumentalists that just do crazy stuff.
I would, or not just for the sake of being overly humble, but I would absolutely say that they are all better at their specific instrument than I know I currently am with what I do. And so it's awesome having that caliber of them saying, hey, we really want you here. And I'm looking at them and saying like, oh my gosh, like, okay, like I I'll do what I can to like hit that bar. I'll do what I can to push myself forward. And so it's awesome because it really lights a fire underneath to try to be as good at what I'm doing as I know they already are. So
That's like the best situation you can be in, though.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah, absolutely.
gets you to go that extra mile and push yourself.
I think I do better in a situation where I know everyone around me is better than I
Yeah.
am. Because I want to step up. I want to, feel on
Yeah.
par with everything that's going on.
If you're
And-
if you're with people that are on the opposite end of that spectrum and you're kind of the one outshining them, then it's just like, well, I'm not getting really anything out of this. So
Yeah.
much.
Well, and I don't have any desire to feel like compared, I
Mhm.
guess, but it is awesome because as gracious as they are with their compliments and their support of what I'm doing, it's kind of like we have this trust with one another where it's like, hey, we all need to be on a certain level, and it's not about like who's better than whom or how people are fitting. Like it's all like an effort, and I think that's something that's awesome that with such little amount of time that we've had, we've already kind of gotten to that level.
Mhm.
And there are some things that go unsaid that would probably in another situation come to light, but I feel like that's also part of growing as a group is knowing when to say stuff and knowing when it's okay not to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Have there been certain areas, because I know you're a fantastically talented individual. When you walked into all of this, were there gaps that you found you were like, holy shit, I need to go home and work on this specific thing?
Yeah, with ideology specifically, I guess we haven't stated this really. Ideology, what we're aiming for is being the Twin Cities prog metal band. And what that means in like modern metal is blending together not only like different elements of metal, but vocally speaking, I'm pursuing like the screaming vocal, kind of aesthetic, and most of what I'm going to be doing is entirely clean and almost more like operatic singing than I've done before, which I was classically trained like for a long time. But so bringing that side, you hear a lot of that in metal and like anthemic power metal and stuff. And
Yeah,
so, and I've gotten a lot of boosts from the guys saying, like, oh yeah, like it's totally great that you do it like that. But trying to be more modern with approaching like screaming vocals is something that I still am not convinced that I'm totally up for. Physically, it's just something I've never pursued, and I've always kind of been afraid of trying. But I've been making a lot of progress on it actually, because even there's times rehearsing where I just will absolutely sound like garbage for like 15 seconds, but everyone will just be like, hey, like we're all working towards that, and So that's the thing that is like wow for me. Like I don't have that right now, and I need to pursue that. Is definitely the aggressive and the screaming vocals, mixing that into the style I kind of already have.
Awesome. Is it something that you feel like everybody in the band is kind of in that same boat where they have those specific things that they're trying to get? Obviously, like you don't want to go too specific because that would be weird. But is it one of those things where everybody has certain things that they're really trying to push on in order to form this thing that you're trying to create together?
I think everyone's definitely pushing towards a higher level of quality than they're at. But honestly, I wouldn't look at you and say that I would be like, oh, this person like needs to do this so they can do this. Like I seriously feel like I'm the only one who actually has like really big holes to patch.
Sure.
But again, that's part of the awesome thing is that the way that they express my importance walking into the group is entirely encouraging and uplifting for me to say, okay, like I already have their support. Now I just need to like really earn it and put it in the books kind of with these recordings that are going to be coming out, you know, and the shows that we're going to be playing. That's my chance to say, you guys made the right call and like, let's all go forward together instead of anyone trying to play catch up or, but like I said, I still think that everyone is pursuing a higher level than they're at. But for now, I am very focused inward as far as improvement is concerned.
That makes sense. You mentioned that Mike and Charlie specifically had a whole bunch of musical ideas already sort of more or less put together.
Some of them are basically complete songs, yeah.
So when you are coming in and then writing lyrics for some of that stuff, was there ever a point where you went back to them and said, hey, can we change this? Or were you really determined to fit what you were doing into what already existed?
Yeah. Honestly, it wasn't from a standpoint of me being intimidated or anything like that, but I felt like it would be best this first time to say, that's the form. I'm not going to change it. And what I would actually do is I would write lyrics and vocals as though I were going to be singing every single bar of the entire song. And then what I would do at that point is I would say, when do you want me out? Because I didn't want to approach the situation like, oh, like, which parts do I have to write for? You know what I mean? Like, from the get-go, I kind of wanted to give that prepared impression. And I would, like, for this song, Bliss, that we just released, I wrote vocal parts for literally every section of the song. And then I just went up to Mike and I said, I guarantee you probably have some solos. Like, when are those? You know, when do I cut those out? And, you know, even, you know, Charlie, I would wonder if he has some moments like, you know, is this, like, pattern or groove that you're introducing or playing something that you don't want vocals over? And there are a few sections where, you know, if you're listening to the music for, like, a vocal experience, you might say to yourself, like, oh, like, there's no more singing. But in reality, that happens in such a way that is part of a transition or part of an impressive idea being introduced by another instrument. And so a lot of people think of this structure as like the way you hear things is kind of like drums and bass, guitars and keys and like vocals. And that's very basic. Obviously, I'm, you know, simplifying it. But in this sense, it's very much like every instrument is just like a little dot and they're all lined up next to each other. And like that's ideology. So that's kind of how I write, is at any time someone's going to say, well, you're not there because they're there. And I'll say, okay. So that's how I've been writing.
Have the songs that you've been writing since you joined, have there been original stuff? Have there been original? I can't even English. I'm sorry. Has there been original stuff that's being put together by everyone since this group hit its iteration, or are you still building almost entirely off of stuff that Mike and Charlie already had ready to go, and everything's kind of springing off of that?
Yes. To the latter part is that Mike and Charlie really did have the groundwork laid out, and everyone has been given a lot of opportunities for, you know, like Luke on bass, for example, is, you know, like, oh, you know what, this was kind of in the demo you guys had, but I was thinking this kind of thing, and then he'll just play something that you're like, I can't imagine the song without that anymore, you know. And so he's not necessarily changing the songs or the groundwork, but he's coming in and saying, I think this is what should be going on in the low spectrum, and just killing it. And in the same way, John coming in as a guitar player hasn't probably changed as many things, but the way he's contributed is allowing Mike to say, I know John's nailing that part, so now I can add this other piece that I had been hoping for. And we do treat Mike as, our lead guitarist. He's kind of the one who gets those extra ideas implemented and who has always more layers in his mind. So for now, it's very based off of what they had, but we're definitely turning it into something that you won't be able to say, that's the wrong way to say it. Each song, you will immediately get the impression that we all impacted it. But it's definitely built off of the groundwork that they've set, and it will be for this first collection of recordings, and then moving forward, it'll probably be a more collaborative effort.
Okay. Now, when you say collection of recordings, are we talking an EP? Are we talking an album? Are we talking, do we not know yet?
I hate EPs because, well, rather, I hate doing them. I love when people put out really good EPs. I don't like doing them because I feel like I always have more than enough to fill an album as it is, and I feel like an EP never really gets the right amount of like promotion and creation versus like attention and reception. So it's like, you don't really put all the effort into it like you would an album as far as creating it and trying to get it out there and whatnot. And then I feel like people too, they will be excited for it, but they won't get that effect like, oh, it's their new album. They'll kind of just be like, oh, it's like some new songs. And so while we won't have a high track count, I can almost guarantee it will be released with the length of a full album. That's undeniable. And probably the push and the attention of a full album, but definitely a first album.
Okay. In albums, looking down the road a little bit, in albums to come, is there already groundwork laid for more than one album, or is number 2 down the road looking at something like, all right, we're starting completely from scratch and everybody's throwing in kind of the same level of...
Yeah, we haven't really decided that yet. We definitely are all on the same page as far as we're going to want to do another one, but until we get to the point where we've released this one, well, and we've done these demos, but we really haven't done anything yet where we consider it our studio recording.
Sure.
And so when we get to the process of recording and releasing and performing shows, and we want to get some longevity out of that material, and I think even as we produce more albums, we'll come back to some of these songs as favorites. So the intention is absolutely there that we will want to do another album. Whether or not it will be totally from scratch, I can't say, because I know for a fact that Mike comes up with so many musical ideas all the time, but now that John is in the picture, John also has some very good ideas fleshed out that he will show me from time to time, and I'll sit and I'll think like, oh, like that sounds like ideology, but like how could it, because he's not really involved before, but that's really interesting to me, and I think that that's something that'll come into play is how do you luck out with 2 guys, though they might be of different experience and taste throughout their playing, how do you get 2 guys who are trying to create almost the same thing? That's pretty lucky, I think. And so we'll see how that happens, but I can't tell for sure.
Well, it's something to look forward to down the line. And speaking of things to look forward to, there's the inaugural show upcoming.
The River Rage is what it's called, and it's actually at Mississippi Pub in Inver Grove Heights on October 2nd. It's a sweet bar that like you kind of take this weird winding road to get to it, but it's like all of a sudden this space just opens up, and it's by the Mississippi River, and it's like kind of looks old but kind of looks new.
Yeah.
It's a really cool place, and then they're actually doing it outside on a stage, I think is what I've been told, that they're trying to set it up.
Awesome.
And I've heard people talk about, like, oh, what if it rains? But
she'll be like right down with the docks.
with
all the houseboats.
Supposedly,
and
yeah, like that's kind of what it's gonna be like. Hence, River Rage. Put reverb on that post. Anyway, but I'm super excited for that, and we are definitely gonna, whether it's good or bad, we're gonna stand out at that show. We're not necessarily of the same style as the other bands. So, it's metal. It's a metal show. It really is. But my hope for the show is that we will kind of be able to put some weird licks on people's faces, and get people wondering, like, what is that? Like, why does that sound sound that way, and also maybe they'll be thinking, you know, like, why does it work so well? Like, I'm like confused and entertained at the same time, like, because you know, and the style is popular. The style that we play, it's similar to a lot of bands in like the gent style, and a lot of the elements that we have come from that. But I feel like in this area, though there are a lot of amazing local metal bands, I just don't feel like there's anyone trying to do exactly what we're doing. And so I'm hoping we can kind of like stretch the mold a little bit of what's going on locally. Yeah, I guess that's all I can say about that. Is I think it's going to be a really good show. I think we're going to kind of test some waters. That was a really unintentional, bad, horrible pun. That was not intended. But yeah, so October 2nd, that starts at 7 p.m. And the door cost is actually higher than the pre-sale tickets. And so if people want tickets, they're cheaper for you, and it's helpful for us. So you can get at us at Ideology. We do have a Facebook and a Twitter. But also you can find any of us guys on Facebook and find tickets that way too.
Awesome. And we'll, of course, be sure to be putting up the links to the Ideology.
That'd be great.
Social media all over the Tusk social media. That's kind of what we do. Now, running up to that show, that's not too far out. We're talking, what, a week, 2 weeks? Yeah.
A week from Friday?
About a week
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. It's
Holy cow.
it's a little intimidating.
A week. Well,
Almost 2 weeks.
It's
is
a
the math
Friday,
on that.
so it's
Yeah.
it's
but
what
when
is
the,
what
when
is
when,
today?
when they hear this,
When they...
You
that
may
is
not
true.
you may not be hearing this live, believe it or not.
if someone is, then they should probably get the police called on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. for
Yeah,
sure.
that'd be creepy.
Now I'm
weird. So
looking
so
around.
yeah.
October 2nd though is a Friday, and whether it's 5 minutes from you or a week, it will still be happening. So
Hopefully you'll be there,
yes.
dear listeners.
So looking forward to that show, is there anything that you're looking at right now in terms of either band or equipment or you personally or anything around there that you're looking at and like, oh, holy cow, this is not ready to go?
Honestly, and not to be like a pessimist at all, but I'm looking inward and I'm saying, like, you need to like bulk yourself up mentally, but like vocally, I know that show is really going to be a test for me, and it's going to be exciting because I haven't performed any of this stuff live, and it's newer for me, you know, to be in this style again. I used to dabble in it a lot more, but again, as far as improvement and as far as preparation, I trust the guys, and I'm just entirely looking inward at myself to wonder, you know, how strong of a first impression can I make without just blowing it. I almost said blowing it out of the water for myself. I'm so sorry with the water puns. But really, like, I don't want to blow myself out of the water with, like, expectations and over preparation and stress. But I've got some work to do before that day.
Very cool. Well, I would really like to listen to this tune, Bliss. I, of course, have heard it, 1,000 times already. but it just gets better and better and better. So what can you tell me about this specific song?
Bliss, we all kind of decided was the right song to go with first because we had unleashed clips of it before, but it's our sound without elements that could like drive first-time listeners away, but also throws in a number of the impressive elements we want to draw people with, which are polyrhythms and altering time signatures and epic sweeping building choruses kind of things, and it's kind of the little icon of Ideology, musically speaking.
It's your business card.
It's like our elevator pitch, sort of. It's everything we kind of want to be doing in one song without trying to scare everybody away from it.
Yeah.
So that's really all I can say. I love this song. It's the first one we did together. It's the first one I wrote for, and sometimes we think it's about to be the easiest one when we're preparing and rehearsing, but it always has a way of surprising us, and hopefully it'll surprise everyone else too.
Excellent. Well, from Ideology, let's listen to Bliss. From Ideology, we were just listening to Bliss right here on Tusk Radio. Absolutely awesome first release. I am head over heels about it.
Thank you.
Now, lyrically, it seems like that's coming from kind of a personal experience thing. That's kind of the way it reads.
Yeah, everything that I'm writing right now for Ideology is, even if it's like not something I've lived per se, this first run is kind of a collection of semi-vague stories that ultimately point towards fear and like acceptance of fear, and then like overcoming fear. And sometimes, you know, for people who know me, they'll hear that and say like, oh, like you're just trying to go way over your own head. But my hope is that for people who hear the music, that they'll actually hear the part of me that's coming from, which is, you know, I don't want people to feel drained and like painful when they listen to our stuff. It's very aggressive, but like even in the way Mike writes, there's a lot of beauty in the melodic sections and the complexity of rhythms. And if I had to put it in a nutshell, I just kind of want people to get the impression of overcoming, I guess, and fighting for what you want to have and want to do, because no one really fits in like a one-size-fits-all mold, whether it's like musically or in literally any facet of life. And so I kind of just want people to be more excited about fighting the battles they want to fight instead of succumbing to kind of, I don't know, just being what they're told they are, or like stopping where they're told they have to, because that's something I'm still wrestling with even. And so anything I can do to kind of overcome that and help others overcome that, that's generally what you will hopefully be able to draw from any of the songs. And definitely for this record, but I don't know, maybe more. Maybe I'll move on to something else. But I feel like chronologically I'm going to be able to tackle a lot of mess in the attic with this music.
That makes sense.
So yeah.
And listening to that, I feel like we hear a lot of different influences kind of coming to bear all together. If you were to pick even a handful of people whose music has really influenced the way Ideology sounds, where are you drawing from?
You know, for influences, it's super various. I try not to like give people direct identifiers, but Charlie is always like my Tool guy. Like I know that's super who he's into, and you know, all of us have listened to like our running joke is that like people who are kind of ignorant about metal will be like, you guys sound like Dream Theater and like Coheed and Cambria. And like that's kind of a running joke, but you know, because we've all listened to those bands, but we'll look at what we have and be like, like if you need something to base it off of, we're for anyone who are fans of anything that Between the Buried and Me has done, and then also The Faceless, definitely, and really any range of Peripheries music. Those three bands are where we'd like to identify with the most as far as listeners are concerned.
Well, that makes sense.
They're pretty good, and we want to be pretty good. So.
Right. Right. And it keeps good company.
Yeah.
Well, and it does play very, very well. So hopefully we'll get to hear a lot more of that stuff coming out in the future too.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have a timeline at all for releases, any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, you know, this show, which if you're just starting to listen, is October 2nd at Mississippi Pub. It's the River Rage event. And our main goal was have all of this first chunk of songs prepared, because we'll be able to put together about like a 40-minute set that way. And we're trying to decide right now between whether or not that's going to be the first recording we release, or we actually have one more song that is, you know, in pre-production, hasn't been developed as a group yet, but we're discussing the possibility of adding that on and unleashing the whole thing, which at that point really would be a full-length album. I think the last song is like, it's like 11 minutes or something like that. Wow. Kind of more true to the prog style.
Yeah.
But I think if we go with this first chunk of songs, we could be seeing it released January.
Nice.
And then if we add this, this extra like mini epic, I think it would probably be pushed into early spring.
Okay.
Yeah, but nothing has been set in stone. We're still messing around with names of a lot of things. And it's funny because even as we like name songs officially, we've all got these random names that, were like the original demo names or something. And it'll be like, oh, we're playing like Rhino, which is probably not a word that will end up. Mike has this, Mike and Charlie both have this awesome thing. Like Mike, for example, like he's written, I think 3 different songs where he will literally like turn his head and the first thing he sees is the name of that song. Like,
And the first thing he saw was a rhino?
Yeah, well,
Where
no.
is he writing
Charlie
these?
has this like sick painting of a rhino in his house. I don't know which one of them named that one. But so there's Bliss actually was originally called Boston Matrix because Mike had like a marketing textbook open on his desk. He was like, oh, it's the Boston Matrix. Like, it sounds cool. And they kind of gave me the task of going through and renaming everything, which I kind of have fallen in love with those silly names. But anyway, yeah. So everything's kind of getting renamed and everything's coming together. And like I said, early next year is the plan right now.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely be looking forward to it. Before we are done and closing out for the day, why don't you run us down the social media list? I realize we're still kind of in infancy, but do you have a couple of things up and parked?
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter as Wesleyology, but otherwise we have like Ideology Band on Twitter and Facebook and our SoundCloud and our Bandcamp page, which is where you can download the stuff for free. But then, you search Ideology or like Mike Salo on YouTube, and that's some other stuff in there. Yeah, I don't like to be like the social super plugger, but we really do have a lot, and we're trying to grow our Facebook page right now. So that would probably be a cool place to check out first if you're going to.
Well, you heard the man. Head over to Ideology's Facebook page. Make sure you drop them a like. While you're tooling around the social medias, you can, of course, find us at whatever/Tusk Radio. We were lucky enough to actually park everything that way.
The actual URL,
whatever/Tusk Radio.
.go.
.go.
Ask Jeeves.
Anybody who feels like punching that into Google and seeing what happens.
We're not responsible for the results.
Yeah, it's probably a porn site.
Yeah.
So
we are Tusk Radio /BlueWaffle.com.
Oh my God.
Well, and on that horrifying note, we're going to go ahead and call it a night. Horrifying.
There you go.
What did I say?
Hey, it's almost Halloween season.
Horrifying.
It's almost been a hour.
It's a
What a horrifying episode.
Ayo.
God, the
That was
puns.
very funny.
I'm going to have nightmares of myself.
Well, Mr. Berger, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
On this very late evening. I think it was later than we've ever recorded anything.
The
Yeah,
thing
probably.
is, it seems late because we're all adults now, and that's really depressing.
Yeah,
That's
let's
scary.
not even talk about
You
that out
hush,
loud.
sir.
No, I will not hush.
The important
And
thing is it's not
For
late
the
enough.
first time
Yes.
in the history of Tusk Radio, if you are watching this on YouTube, which we assume you are, because it's the only place we're putting it up, since this is where we're leaving you, that's actually the end of the episode as well. We're not doing any themed playlist. We're not doing any of that tonight, so you're not going to get that stern admonition to go find the rest of this somewhere else, like a treasure hunt. We're experimenting a little bit here.
Like a teenager in 1967.
Wow.
Summer of Love. Anybody?
And
Okay.
all right.
I'm just saying.
Let's stop.
Once again, I have ruined everything.
Daniel Brackey has ruined everything. It's been fun. Thank you to Katie Allison and Daniel Brackey for
Hi.
coming in, enjoying the party. Always. Except for Brackey, who ruined the
Good
party.
job, Katie.
Yay.
We're great.
We can make words.
Speak for yourself. Wait, I mean, actually, you can. I can't. Never mind.
Well, that was well done.
You just made a bunch of words.
Everybody wave goodbye to the camera. This is Tusk Radio. We are signing off. Thanks, and we will see you next week, hopefully. Goodbye.
Dude, I suck at talking.